decided halfway through the project he didn't like it, and he just, oh crap. Sorry guys, a bird just flew through here and scared the snot out of me. Ah, whew. Where was I? What is up, Hammerheads? Welcome back to the Forge. Today we're going to be making a pot rack, coat rack. Sorry, it's a little crooked. A pot rack, coat rack, key rack, whatever you'd like to call it. Doing a little bit smaller one, but you can do these in any size. So stay tuned, guys. Alright guys, first thing we're going to be doing is laying out our material. I'm going to lay out where the wall mounts are going to be in my bins. So as I was saying, this is going to be more of a rectangle style than a rounded out style of pot hanger or coat rack or whatever it is you'd like to call it. So I'm going to come in with my center punch on the back side of my material, and I'm going to make marks where I want my bins to be. Then after the fact, I'm going to come in, and after I've made my bins and got my wall mount set up, then I'll come in and see how I want the hooks laid out. So come in about an inch. You can see a little better there now. There we go. Come in about an inch for where what I like to call the foot is. That's the part that'll mount the wall. And then we come in another inch, and that's where it's going to be your bin going into where your hooks will be. And vice on the other side, you're going to do the exact same thing. Getting this laid out beforehand, guys, will save you a lot of headache later. Okay guys, so what I'm doing on the end of the material here is pulling the material out in what's called a fishtail. I'm going to do this on both ends, and it's just the same way that we would do a leaf whenever we were in that project, is pulling the material out on both sides, and it makes that fishtail effect on the end. It works real well on scroll work and on wall mounted pieces like what we're doing here. Now I'm just going over to the vise to do my bends for what the foot would be on that mounts on the wall. And again, you do this on both sides. Just, you know, pay attention to when you're doing it, that you don't accidentally do one bend one way and one bend the other way, and you make a big Z. Now all this you can do over the edge of the anvil on all your bends. Now I'm just using it, like again, using a scrolling jig here, or a J-hook jig, but you can do these bends again over the edge of your anvil. I just like how the corners are not super sharp. Now I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about how to make hooks. I'll have a link in the description for a video dedicated just to hook making, but just note that we are going to be making 3 hooks to use on this project. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied. But if you're making a bigger rack, or coat rack or pot rack to hold your stuff on, if you want to do 4 or 5, 6, however many you'd like to do, if you'd like to make some longer ones, shorter ones. It's a fun thing about this project is the options are unlimited on what you can do. Alright guys, so right here all I'm doing is laying out where I want my hooks to be placed on my rack. And I try to evenly space them. So I come in from the side from where it was at about an inch. So put it at the 2-inch mark. And then I went 3 inches to the 5. And then I went 8 inches. Which if you look, put it in roughly about an inch from where it was originally from the 9 inches in. Was about an inch. Okay guys, so I'm just setting the rivet here. And don't be afraid to move your material around if your hook tries to bend, try to kind of, cock off to the side on you or something. Just pull it back into place, set your rivet. If it tries to bend on you, move your material and hammer a different direction. But there's our finished rack right there, guys.
All right, guys, let's get real for a minute and talk about what we learned today. We learned how to lay out a project. And it's a very basic layout on just showing where the hooks are and showing where our bends were going to be. But it's a starting point of learning how to lay out bigger projects, really getting used to reading the ruler and kind of really lining everything up. We will be doing more advanced projects on how we lay out things. We'll probably have a piece of wood and lay scroll work out and things like that on building something bigger. I don't really know what project we're going to do yet. We might do a small gate or a wall mounted piece or something. I'm not real sure, but that project will be coming a little bit later on this year. Also, something very important I want you to learn, and I want you to always keep this in the back of your mind, is you notice all 3 of my hooks are not the exact same. There's a purpose behind that. 2 reasons, actually. I've never actually made consecutively, unless I make a bunch of hooks at one time, hooks that are all exactly the same way, unless I'm using jigs. And 2, I want you to understand, sometimes in your work, things might not always go exactly the way you planned. Like, you make a bend, it just didn't work exactly the way you wanted it to, or you do a scroll, or you do a twist or something, and it just doesn't work out. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that it's garbage. I have an axe head that a guy made at a local forge that I'm a member of, and it wasn't exactly the way he wanted it to go, but it's still going to turn out to be a beautiful axe. I have it and going to finish it eventually one day over in my pile of projects. But he got started going and it wasn't exactly the pattern he wanted, and he just trashed it 2/3 through the project. I mean, it's almost finished. I just got to shape out the blade. And I want you to understand and really write this down, I guess, as they say, or remember this. There are no mistakes. It's a design change. Now, are you going to have mistakes? Are you going to mess up material? Yes. But there's times, just like this hook, I could have scrapped the hook, threw it down, restarted, but I like that 2 of them are pretty uniform. 1 of them is a little different. It makes it a little more unique. So sometimes a mistake or a mishammer blow, one of the prettiest leaves I've ever made was by accident. I left it in a forge too long. I was talking to somebody. If you have a coal forge, don't talk to people. And it almost burned up my material. It burned all these jagged edges all over it. And I'm like, I could have just thrown it away right then and scrapped the project. But instead, I went ahead and made the leaf, finished making the leaf out, and it really looked like what we call a briar leaf here in Tennessee. It was sharp pointed all the way around. It looked really nice. And it was one of the nicer leaves I've ever made. It was an accident. I could have thrown it away and said, oh man, it's ruined. But I went with it. And sometimes going with those projects, you can turn something that might have been a mistake and change the design a little bit, and you turn it into something beautiful. So I wanted you to keep that thought process in your mind as you're making stuff, because there are no mistakes. It's a design change. We've had many mistakes up here, like I said, and instead of scrapping the project, we just kept going and we turned it either into something else or it turned into something a lot nicer for that project. So that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next one. God bless. Keep hammering.